Welcome back to the Kevin O'Connor Show. We get a loaded episode today with my guest, as he is every Friday, Tom Haberstroh. Tom, how you doing, man?
Oh, man, what a night in the NBA. College hoops, the whole hoops team was on fire last night. It was unreal.
There's a lot to talk about. Let's start on the NBA side before we talk about the Adam Silver presser and the college basketball games on Thursday night. The Lakers and LeBron James had an absolutely hilarious loss against the Bulls, who had an unbelievable comeback, 44-26 in the fourth quarter, missed only 2 of their 3-pointers, had 9 points in the final 12 seconds of the game. LeBron missed a rotation on a corner 3. He had a poor pass on an inbound leading to a steal. And then Josh Giddey hits a half-court buzzer beater 3. Tom, it was unbelievable, unthinkable.
Unbelievable finish. And this is why we love the NBA, is the drama. Think of all the drama that LeBron and the Lakers and JJ Redick, that whole team has faced this season. And we're not even in April yet. We're not even at the playoffs yet. The best is yet to come. The most dramatic season I can ever remember in the league. When you talk about the Luka trade, you talk about the Mark Williams rescinded trade, you talk about Bronny James and his dad playing in the same game, LeBron having 40,000 points, Josh Giddey hitting a half-court buzzer beater 24 hours after the Lakers won on a buzzer beater. This is like 7 documentaries in one, and we're not even in April. What a finish in Chicago. I can't even wrap my head around all the little things that had to go right for the Bulls for that even to come to a possibility. Josh Giddey hitting a 47-footer at the buzzer and just leaving everyone in Chicago in a total riot. What a scene.
Yeah, I mean, what makes it extra incredible to me is the fact that just last Saturday, they dismantled the Lakers. They beat them by 31 points. You'd think on a rematch, the Lakers would come on Thursday and smoke them. But instead, the Bulls continued winning. They're really trending up. They've won 4 in a row. They've won 8 out of 10. They've been really good since the All-Star break. Josh Giddey, he hits that 3 to end the game, has another stellar game since the All-Star break. He's averaging 22.8 points, 10.5 rebounds, 9.2 assists, hitting 51.7% of his 4.5 3-pointers per game, over 80% from the free throw line. It's amazing the second half leap that he's experiencing as a player individually. And then you got Coby White, who's shown flashes throughout his career. He's averaging 29.5 points in the month of March, a hair under 50, 40, 90. 49.6% field goal, 37.3% from 3, 88.5% from the line. Superb efficiency, superb volume for him. They're looking like a dynamic duo. Buzelis is getting better. The Bulls are trending up, Tom. They really are.
The 5 whites. You got Coby White and then 4 other white dudes in that starting lineup. They're taking off. Kevin Huerter hitting that big 3 on LeBron. LeBron had some critical mistakes defensively. Offensively, of course, with the turnover, but their miscommunication at the end, LeBron complaining about a foul call in the final seconds there, and when he got blocked by Vooch and then trailing, and the Chicago Bulls are playing like a well-oiled machine down the stretch, getting the extra pass, finding the open man, Pat Williams hitting the 3-pointer in the corner, and then LeBron throwing it away to Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey makes the heady play. I got to get the rock to Kobe, and he hits the 3. Bonkers, absolutely bonkers. Austin Reeves making clutch plays, but the story of the game is Josh Giddey and what he's done for this Bulls team. Like this guy, like you said, 20, 10, and 9 since the All-Star break on those shooting percentages, and he's 22 years old. He's 22. This is what people forget about Josh Giddey. He came into the league as a young teenager, came in, and now he's in his 4th year, still 22 years old, and we haven't really seen what he's capable of. Like the shooting percentages from 3, he's not on high volume right now, and of course he had the half-court buzzer beater there helping his numbers in this game, but if Josh Giddey gets a reliable 3-point shot, and this is kind of the whole thing with Josh Giddey, what's separating him between like a Ben Simmons type where you can kind of play off of him and coax him into those 3-point shots that he doesn't want to take. If he has some confidence with that 3-point shot and he gets some improved mechanics and becomes a reliable 3-point threat, this is a perennial all-star player. Josh Giddey's been awesome, and you can see the prototype that Chicago's going to throw the bag at him this offseason, and well worth it. He's played into the huge contract with huge numbers and huge heady play down the stretch. Hats off to Josh Giddey. What a performance.
On my episode with Chris Vernon earlier in the week, I said to him that one of my semi-bold predictions is that Giddey gets paid $100 million this summer, either 25 annually or even 30 annually. I don't think that's outrageous with the way he's performed this season because, like you said, he looks like an all-star player when he's hitting threes. We know he can play make. We know he can pass. He's got size on defense. But what happened to him in the playoffs last year with OKC is the shot fell off a cliff. Teams are sagging off him. He didn't look like a clunky fit on that roster, and that's why OKC flipped him for Caruso. But for the Bulls, he's 22 years old, as you said, Tom. He's getting better, and this Bulls team is feeling like they're starting to take shape. The Pacers, they also are another team that feel like they're getting significantly better. Basically, ever since the NBA Cup, Halliburton's been back to normal. Pacers are on a real upward trend right now. They're the 3 seed. They absolutely just pooped on the Wizards. 162 to 109. 162 points, Tom. 162 points. Huh.
I never thought I'd see this. Like, remember last year when Adam Silver was talking about how we wanted, these more physical games and that scoring was out of control? We just saw the Lakers give up 44 points in the fourth quarter. The Bulls had 108 effective field goal percentage. 108 effective field goal percentage in the fourth quarter. And that wasn't even the most ridiculous scoring performance of the night because the Pacers just scored 162 points in regulation and they were trying to run the shot clock out. They were giving up possessions at the end of the game. They could have had 180. They could have had 180 in this game. This is insane.
I can't believe. I mean, look. Rick Carlisle, he's the head of the Coaches Association, and he, out of respect for the Wizards, he probably doesn't want to run up the score. But at the same time, like, you get your players, man. Like, you got to go for history and continue pushing more and set the bar higher. I wish they went for 170 at least instead of settling for 162. But I understand why Carlisle did it. I get it. I understand.
Oh my God, I've never seen anything like that where they're dribbling out the clock and the home crowd is booing, like booing. And I'm trying to interpret that boo. Was it they were mad at, the Pacers not trying to go for it, waving the white flag, or they were booing the Wizards for like, they dropped 80 points in both halves. That's insane. It's insane. They had 6 different guys in the game with 5 or more assists. Think about that. 6 different players with at least 5 assists. They had 48 for the game, which means basically they're getting everything they wanted. There was no like ISO ball or post-up ball. They were just destroying them like a surgical clinic of basketball performance there by the Indiana Pacers. And this isn't like, they don't have a Luka. They don't have a Giannis. They don't have a Jokic on their team. This isn't like Reggie Miller in his prime. This is the 2025 Indiana Pacers dropping 162 points. Showtime for the Indiana Pacers. So, I mean, this is like, I didn't think the Walker Kessler 8 3-pointers a game tanking would be outdone in the next week, but giving up 162 points when it should have been 170 or 180, we're not even April yet. Like, just wait, everybody.
I misspoke a little bit earlier when I said the Pacers are currently the 3 seed. What I had meant to say is they're closing in on the 3 seed. Right now, they're 2.5 games back from the Knicks. They're on fire. The Knicks have been up and down as of late. Right now, though, I got to say, though, Tom, with the Knicks as the 3 seed, the Bucks as the 6 seed, and then the Pacers as the 4 and the Pistons as the 5, I like these matchups. If this is what we get in the first round of the Eastern Conference, you get this Knicks team against the Bucks, these 2 veteran teams of a lot of guys that have been there. The Pacers, of course, go to the East Finals, but they're still a younger team overall. The Pistons on the up and up, the Pacers also on an up and up. I like these matchups if this is what we get for 4-5 and 3-6.
Yeah, I wish we had Damian Lillard, and maybe he comes back for the postseason. It's going to be really rough if they don't get him back, but hopefully he comes back off of the blood thinners and is able to come back onto the floor in time for the postseason. But that would be kind of a miracle, medical miracle, from what I've gathered historically with these blood clots. It's a long shot for him to come back. But if he does come back, That's going to be great. And we want to make sure that Jalen Brunson is healthy too. If we get like a full squad, and this is the tough thing about the league this year is full squad. Imagine the Bucks going against the Knicks full squad in the first round of the playoffs. That would be pretty epic. And of course, the Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons trying to get more national attention for their amazing stories this season. And I do think that that would be a really fun matchup, especially for NBA sickos and junkies like Cade Cunningham, Malik Beasley going against that offense. It would be a really high scoring affair. And the way that JB Bickerstaff and Rick Carlisle has these guys playing, it's going to be a really fun basketball series. And the Knicks have a lot of issues that they got to fix, in terms of getting their guys healthy and making sure they play high level defense. But Kat and Giannis in the first round matchup, that would be awesome.
That would be incredible. And if we do get Pistons Pacers, maybe we get Malice in the Palace Part 2.
Oh yeah.
Halliburton going in the crowds. Siakam out there. Who's most likely? Isaiah Stewart in that series, right? Isaiah Stewart is most likely to go in the crowd.
Oh yeah, Isaiah Stewart and James Johnson. Yo, I know who I'm picking in that matchup, but I don't think the league wants to see that. I don't think the league wants to see it. Are we gonna get like a reunion? When we get like reunions of old time amazing matchups, are we gonna get a Malice at the Palace reunion here?
I mean, that would be sensational. I know the league doesn't want the Malice in the Palace part, but the matchup itself would be excellent. Adam Silver, speaking about him and things that he doesn't want, something that he does want, and he talked about yesterday at his presser, is expansion. He talked about expanding to Europe, though, not yet for the Sonics, not yet for Vegas. He talked about how they've announced exploring a new men's basketball league in Europe. The FIBA Secretary General was there with him as well, and they talked about how they might be starting a league in Europe. No guarantees, though. They just wanted to announce that they're exploring this, Tom. What were your initial takeaways of the NBA and FIBA potential partnership here?
Have you ever seen a press conference where the NBA is announcing an exploration of a deal? Very strange, It's like they had a press release ready or announcement ready that they had come to agreement on terms, and then they couldn't come to agreement on terms. I mean, I'm speculating here. I have no inside information, but it just felt odd that they would release a press conference or a press release about that they're talking. I don't know what that's about. Maybe they're trying to drum up interest in terms of the franchise fees or trying to get investors involved, and they want to increase the bidding. But that was bizarre to see that as a press release. I can understand that in a press conference, you say, "Hey, we're looking at this," but to get like an NBA watermark on exploration of a deal, it was bizarre. And I will say, it's exciting. I would think we all can agree that it would be fun for us to go on some road trips to Europe, to Barcelona, to Madrid, to Athens, to London on Yahoo Sports' dime to go cover the NBA. That'd be amazing. I would love to have just like a mid-season. Hey, KOC, you want to just go on the beaches of Barcelona for a little bit in the middle of the season? That would be awesome. I think we're all cheering for that.
Have the NBA Cup out there?
That would be awesome. I think that's the kind of
that's what they want to
like
do. Oh yeah.
Right, is like we in the formative years of the NBA Cup, everyone's kind of figuring out what is the idea, what's the plan, why are we doing this in Vegas, why are the stats not counting, what is the trophy, what are the stakes, why is Giannis Antetokounmpo not celebrating an NBA Cup? We have a bunch of champagne on ice in the locker room. The players aren't even invested in winning this thing, but once the European piece comes together, that's what I think everyone's excited for, is a mid-season Europe trip. And that's why I think they're breaking up the schedule to try to figure out a way, how can we make this so it's not too taxing on the bodies to make an in-season tournament over in Europe. And I think in like next 5 years, I think that's a real possibility. They're exploring the idea of an NBA Cup in Europe. I'm waiting for that press release.
Well, I mean, that is the plan. Like, they want to expand the NBA Cup. They're starting out small, and they want to take baby steps to going to a worldwide global tournament. And I think that's what a piece of this is. The NBA wants their hands in Europe. They want a bigger piece of the pie there. They see the potential. Adam Silver talked about building some new state-of-the-art arenas out there. So, like, they see the potential for NBA being truly a global game. And they talked, though, about expansion here in America, though, as well. He didn't really give a timeline on Seattle or Vegas, But one thing he did say, he kind of was speaking to Sonics fans. He's like, we appreciate how there's still all this interest. We have not forgotten about this. There's just certain things he said that he can't say publicly, but they're studying how to best go about this because they don't want those franchises to be in horrible shape when they start out. So I'm intrigued here, because I remember Bill Simmons a few years ago, maybe a couple years ago, I think he said it was like 26, 27 season expansion was when it was going to happen. I remember hearing that as well a few years back, but that's not happening. We don't have a timeline yet. So clearly the NBA is waiting for the right time to pull the trigger. Have you heard anything, timing wise, Tom, about that?
Every time I think that it's right around the corner, they add another thing in sequence to say, hey, the Boston, once the media deal happens, okay, the media deal happens. Once the Boston sale happens, okay, the Boston sale happens. Hey, wait until we figure out this whole expansion thing in Europe. Then we will get to the domestic expansion. And I will add to this, by the way, American Airlines is not the sponsor for the NBA Cup. It's Emirates. Okay. If you need to know anything about it, keep your third eye open about that. When they're making a presenting sponsor for the NBA Cup, it could have been a domestic or an American airline, but it was not. It was something overseas. So if that gives you a clue about what their aspirations are, and I do think that Seattle fans have had enough. Please stop teasing us with this expansion. They keep talking about it. We keep hearing about it, that it's around the corner. You got LeBron campaigning for the Vegas team, and we're just sitting there waiting for the Seattle Supersonics to get that team. And it seems like they keep kicking the can down the road. Poor Sonics fans.
Is that what they're waiting for? You just said it right there. LeBron retirement? Is that the holdup?
It could be. I think it's really difficult. We saw the Tom Brady stuff with the Raiders, where it's like, how involved can a player be? A former player who's doing a broadcast and also partially owning a team. There's a lot of conflict of interest there. And LeBron James has been openly campaigning for that Las Vegas expansion team. And to me, I don't know who the group is that he's going to go in on. I don't think he has enough cash to go buy himself an NBA team. That would be crazy if LeBron James somehow drummed up the money. But I do think that LeBron wants it, and we'll see if he eventually gets it. But that could be the holdup here is like, LeBron, how many years do you want to do this? And poor Sonics fans have been through enough, man. They can't sit here after watching the Thunder get taken from them, and then the Thunder go to the 2012 NBA Finals, lose to LeBron, and then wait until LeBron gets his team before the Seattle Supersonics get their team back.
Well, he's with Fenway Sports Group. John Henry, owner of the Red Sox, we'll see if he would go in with them and continue to go in with them. But, Henry and Fenway Sports Group passed on the opportunity to make a bid for the Celtics. The thought is that because they're waiting for Vegas. So we'll see if that ends up happening. Expansion, not a lot of new stuff there. I thought it was interesting. Adam Silver admitted that the All-Star game was a miss, which, no kidding. This is probably the biggest miss of the entire season so far. He did not talk about, and he was not asked about potential revisions for that moving forward, though. But, nice to, he seemed pretty much fed up, but you kind of hear him kind of grumble when it was mentioned.
Yeah, it's very clear that Adam Silver needs to get his David Stern on. Enough with giving the players the power to decide. They come in and they have Larry Bird talk to the team last year, and Joe Dumars talk to the team, and he's like, they're going to try harder this year, and they didn't. And this year they're like, hey, Steph Curry, you come up with the idea, and then it flopped again. It's time for Adam Silver to just put his foot down and be like, here's what we're going to do, and if you don't do this, we're going to have some serious consequences for you. I feel like I'm a parent right now talking about how these players need to, at some point, face the music from the commissioner's office in the same way that David Stern would drop the hammer on these guys and say, look, this is a product that if we don't show that we care, and that in this new media deal that we're not going to make our partners happy, the next deal is going to be a lot worse. You're not going to get that second contract that you've been banking on. You're not going to continue to be getting this money, because at this point, Netflix, Amazon, all of the YouTube, they're coming for the NBA and video games, all of it. The attention needs to be on these live games and these tentpole events. And right now, one of the biggest tentpoles, the All-Star game, it's a joke. They're making a mockery of it. And Adam Silver has to get the players in line. And it can't be just, hey, what do you guys think?
I think you're spot on. And you mentioned, Netflix and Amazon, and Adam had mentioned how, 5 years ago, nobody would have anticipated that Amazon would be carrying live sports games. And yet here we are. And he was saying that in context when it comes to local game rights, with that deal coming up as well. And one thing I've heard over the years is the NBA has always envisioned a world in which that they'd have more control over the local games. And now by that, I mean, like, the NFL has CBS, they have Fox, they have NBC, they have ESPN for the marquee games. But for CBS and Fox being the bulk of the games at 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. on Sundays, it's all the same, different broadcasters for each game, but it's all the same graphics, same type of quality, same camera quality, all that stuff. I think that's what the NBA is hoping for here with that next local rights deal, that they want, some are still in 720p when you watch games. Like, I think the NBA wants to up the quality there. It would not shock me if it ends up being a Netflix or an Amazon that's carrying a bulk of local games where, like, you get 4K, and that they improve the quality of these games. And that's part of the NBA's vision for local.
I don't know if you caught this, but Major League Baseball on opening day on Thursday, they basically had the entire MLB TV crash. Like, they could not get the games going. And it made me feel good as an NBA broadcaster and an NBA analyst, is that the NBA isn't the only one having these tech problems. Like League Pass, it feels like League Pass should be way better than it is. And it does feel like
League Pass has gotten much better, Tom. I like League Pass. Yes. They've improved it a lot.
I'm saying,
yes.
Yeah, it's been better. It's been better, but it made me feel like, oh, okay, we're not the only ones who have been suffering through a lot of glitches and crashes, but it has been better this year, to your point. And I do think that, the MLS model of going to Apple and having their games broadcast through Apple, that seems like a template for the NBA. Maybe not with Apple, but somewhere, with Netflix or another party where it's going to be, they're going to have it to a streaming service and you could subscribe and have it that way. I do think that, just speaking me for the Portland Trailblazers, like, I love doing the Blazers broadcast, and it would be so good to maintain some of those ties with the local fans and the local broadcasting groups. Cause I do think, like, there's some flavor and some uniqueness to each broadcast that it would be a shame if we kind of, like, sanitized all the local broadcasts to be feeling the same way. Like, I would want to make sure we kept that same texture and flavor of the local broadcast in some way. I think the NBA will get that right.
I agree. I think the NBA wants to retain that while also kind of having the standards equal for all. Because, like you said, the Blazers have one of the best broadcasts. It just flat out is, from a production standpoint, innovation standpoint, stats, everything like that. The Blazers broadcast does. Like, it's, they've always kind of been ahead of the curve there. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting in front of me. It's just the truth. Portland does a great job. I think Boston does a great job as well. Always have with their pregame show. Everything, like I said, has been really good. A lot of broadcasts are good, but not all of them are. And I think the NBA wants to kind of make sure that the quality is up to par with everything else. Adam had also talked about a little bit about tanking. One of the lines that stood out to me, and you've written a lot about this, Tom, so I'm curious about your thoughts when you heard Adam Silver say, "We have made progress." That is his exact words. "We have made progress." Talking about flattening the lottery odds, 14% up top rather than 25%, which did effectively remove those horrible Sixers teams where you were just outright tanking with a process, but it's just moved the tanking towards the middle rather than at the top of the lottery. So there's still tanking. You've written a lot about this in recent weeks, Tom. So when you heard Adam Silver say, "We have made progress," what was on your mind?
I think a lot of the conversation is missing this third piece, and I wrote about it, the death threats and all of the gambling impact of the tanking, like the in-game tanking, the quiet quitting. We've talked about it on this pod. I think this is something new. I think this is something problematic because we just had the Jonte Porter scandal a year ago, and now you have teams like the Toronto Raptors that had Jonte Porter on their team and are sitting guys on purpose in crunch time and affecting a lot of these over-under bets. And people are very angry about this. And this is a new thing. This might not have been a problem 10 years ago when the NBA is not in bed with sports betting companies, but now it is. And so when you have guys, star players who are being sat on purpose in winning situations this messes up the integrity of the game. And it also raises a lot of concerns about, hey, was that guy really hurt? Was that team really tanking? Or is this another Jonte Porter situation? Fair or unfair, we just had a scandal in the NBA. And I feel like this should be a way bigger deal, is this in-game tanking. And yeah, Adam Silver has a lot of, business partnerships to take care of. And I do think that we are dancing very much on thin ice here when we're talking about all the scandals and the investigations that are happening at a federal level in college basketball. And I do feel like we need to nip this in the bud. We need to figure out this in-game tanking very soon, because I don't know what the fix is. And I've talked to people around the league. They feel this, that fans are getting way more violent and way more inflammatory, and the death threats are a lot more frequent recently in their DMs, in games. And it's reaching a boiling point where it's not just about full game tanking, it's the in-game tanking. And these people who are making bets on the games and are looking at Lauri Markkanen and Scotty Barnes and other players getting sat. Maybe the answer is, Kevin, maybe you shouldn't be betting on the Jazz and the Toronto Raptors at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think people have lost their minds in a lot of different ways in culture. So I hope 99.999% of those death threats and whatnot are empty. But all it takes is one. And that's the scary thing and why they need to be taken seriously. But ultimately for the NBA, what's in their control? Obviously, controlling this as best as they can with rules that dictate what teams are allowed to do. They do their best. They have the 65 game minimum for awards to try to force players to play at least 65 games. They flatten the lottery odds. They fine teams for sitting players if they shouldn't be sitting. But you're right, Tom, the in-game tanking aspect, when you have certain guys that aren't finishing games, aren't playing fourth quarters, how do you police that? Yeah. You remove the incentive, right? Don't you have to remove the incentive to lose? But ultimately, the tough thing there is, so the NBA competition committee is meeting today. They're probably meeting as we record this podcast right now. Maybe by the time you listen or watch this show, we will get some leaks about what was discussed regarding tanking, or maybe there was nothing discussed regarding tanking. We'll find all that out. But I do wonder, with everything that's happened this year, the amount of teams that it feel like are tanking towards that middle area of the lottery, will we come back to some overhaul proposals for the draft lottery? That's what I'm wondering about. With what we could the lottery wheel come back? Mike Zarin's idea from a decade ago, could that come back, where you remove team record from being what determines the draft order, and instead it's something like every team gets a top 5 pick every 3-4 years? Could it be something like that? Or will we, make winning count towards lottery standings, which I am not in favor of, because then there's just incentive to tank earlier in the season rather than late in the season, so you can start that clock earlier. I don't have a clear solution here, Tom, but I would expect we're going to get some leaks over the weekend about what is discussed in that competition committee. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I did see Kevin Pelton and Tim Bontemps over at ESPN report that there was discussions possibly about removing pick protections. So you wouldn't have a team like the Philadelphia 76ers being like, all right, we got to wave the white flag here. We have a top 6 protected pick, or else it goes to OKC. We're going to have to figure out a way to get in that bottom 6. I wonder if there's unintended consequences where the cure is worse than the disease. A lot of these kind of fixes end up actually backfiring. And I think about, hey, if you flatten the odds completely that every non-playoff team gets thrown in the lottery and they have equal odds, then you might have a situation where teams are tanking out of the playoffs. I can't imagine that would ever go well with the fans, go well with the owners, in the sense if you have a chance to make the playoffs and you decide I'd rather have a chance at Cooper Flagg, I think this is all kind of leading to the larger question of does the draft make sense in 2025? The NBA draft with fixed scale contracts to Cooper Flagg and basically 7-8 years of having him on your team, I think is such an advantage. It is such a benefit for these tanking teams that I think it's not just about, hey, we have a lot of ping pong balls. It's that we have Cooper Flagg for 8 years. And I wonder, this is kind of shifting the conversation to college hoops a little bit. Do you think that this will be fixed without the NBA doing anything? Do you think the NBA, by watching this NIL bubble happen, is that if your team is tanking and having no resemblance of a competent front office and a competent basketball product, and your coach has not shown that he can win games or have any sort of inspiring top-down basketball operations, do you see college hoops with NIL and players making millions of dollars? Do you think that will, in effect, cure the tanking, because you can't risk AJ DeBonsa or Cooper Flagg saying, you know what, I'm going back to Duke and BYU for another year?
Not yet. Maybe someday, but not yet. I mean, look, the number one pick this year is going to make $12.6 million in their first year of their contract. They're going to make almost $14 million in the fourth year of that contract. The 10th pick in the draft this year is going to make $5.5 million in the first year of his deal, close to $7 million in the fourth year of his deal. So NIL numbers need to catch up there. DeBonsa reportedly is getting paid $7 million at BYU next year. Cooper Flagg is not quite at $7 million at Duke, is my understanding. I think it's closer to half of that. So look, like unless those NIL numbers come way up, yes, it needs to come up. So like, I think that could make a difference for, a guy that's a second round pick or a late first. Like if you're Richie Saunders, the teammate of Yegor Demon at BYU, maybe you go back for your fourth year at BYU and finish out school, your final year there. And rather than maybe get a two-way contract in the second round, maybe you get paid a couple $100,000 at BYU. If you're like some of these guys, like a JT Toppin, we saw him at Texas Tech thrive at the end of the game to push Texas Tech to the Elite Eight. Maybe you decide to go back to school for another year instead of, getting a potential late first round draft pick. So that's where it could make a difference. But I don't think it yet makes a difference for the guys up top unless that money does get outrageous. Like if DeBonsa's there for his freshman year at BYU getting paid $7 million, and then, a team that he does not want to go to and his rookie contract says, we're going to take you no matter what. At number one, we're not trading the pick, we're taking you. He could have the leverage to go back to BYU and they give him 10, 12, but the number's not there yet. So until it does, ultimately, again, also, I think we are over time. But also, Tom, just because a team is tanking, it doesn't mean that the organization is incompetent. Sometimes the good organizations are the ones who are tanking. Like it could be an appealing situation to go to in some cases. So I think that players will have more leverage, but we aren't there quite yet. Ultimately, I do hope, and maybe I'll write this out and think it through a little bit more. But 10 years ago, playing off of Zarin's lottery, the lottery wheel, playing off the wheel for determining odds, I had an idea for the lottery wheel, which the wheel, instead of determining your pick every 5 years, would determine your draft odds every 5 years. And that would allow you to, in the future, trade, a percentage of your draft odds as a piece in trades. If you don't want to trade, because you could trade the whole thing, but maybe you trade half of your odds to a team. I think there's different ways to go about valuing how you give out picks. But at the same time, the challenge with the wheel, Zarin's version, or making it a lottery odds version is something about being an NBA fan is having hope. And so if you're a Jazz fan this year, or you're a Wizards fan and you just gave up 162, it's like, well, at least we have the second best odds. Well, at least we get a chance to get Cooper Flagg. But if you say, we're not going to get another top 5 pick for another 4 years, like maybe you tune out as a fan for a long period of time and you don't come back until you have hope again. And that's where things get complicated there with some of those changes, where, as you said, it can create new issues.
Yeah, it's just if you show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome, right? And this is what the Wizards might not give up 162 points if they don't think that they have a chance at getting Cooper Flagg next year. So the idea is, maybe the hope is, we don't have to tank. We don't have to lose 60 games in order to have a good chance at getting a star. What if we run an organization that doesn't depend on getting that lottery ticket, and we can woo players like Kevin Durant to come back home to the DC area and build something that isn't so dependent on this lottery ticket? So in some ways, I feel like that hope is just a lot of lottery luck masquerading as hope. And in fact, if you give a fan base hope that you're going to run the organization well and attract free agents, make smart trades, and that's how you're going to acquire star talent, maybe you're not going to have to sell on this lottery ticket being masqueraded as hope.
Well, I mean, you can see why teams are tanking their ass off when you see what Cooper Flagg did on Thursday. 30 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 blocks, a steal, 37 minutes for Duke in a 193 victory over Arizona to advance to the Elite Eight. Cooper Flagg, Tom. Oh, my God. This guy keeps getting better and better and better and better over the course of the year.
He's the youngest player in college hoops, and he's the best player in college hoops. Has that ever happened? Like, I'm serious. Has that ever happened?
I don't think so off the top of my head, no. But at a minimum, he just had one of the best performances in NCAA tournament history, and he's the youngest player in college basketball. It's not just the scoring, Tom. It's not just the turnaround jumper from mid range. It's not just the pull up three at the end of the half. It's not just the playmaking, looking off defenders, and the way he's advanced as a creator and as a ball handler, as a shooter over the years. It's not just all that. It's the defense as well, the intensity, the block shots that he has at the rim, the rotations, the awareness. The dude just checks every single box. There's nothing he does at a poor level. Nothing that Cooper Flagg does at a poor level. He's ready today to play in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I can't wait to dive into your draft guide and just read all about your thoughts on Cooper Flagg and just the rest of this class, because that Duke team is stacked. I was so bad. My bracket is so busted, but I did pick Duke to win it all. And watching that game and pieces of it, dude, I'm not going to say that they could beat the Wizards, but that team has a lot of NBA talent on it. They're well coached, and Cooper Flagg, is he, I think Cooper Flagg in a game against the Wizards, he's the best player on the floor. I think he's the best player on the floor right now. He's that good. He doesn't have any weaknesses, and every time he plays,
Jordan Poole just unsubscribed to the show. Thanks, Tom.
That's fine. Cooper Flagg just subscribed. Which one do you want as a subscriber for the next 10 years?
Thanks.
I think, yeah. Cooper Flagg, I keep thinking, what is his weakness? Because every play down the floor, he shows me that he's got that, the passing, the shot blocking, the point of attack defending, I want the ball, give me the ball right now, and I'm going to go play make. When I only saw one game in person of Cooper Flagg this year, and he took over in the second half against Pitt, and he did the same thing against Arizona, where it's like, give me the ball, I'm going to finish this game and send you guys packing. And the late game shot blocking, the just poise that he has. And my favorite thing about him is he cares so much. You can tell that this dude wants to ruin everybody on the opposing team and carry the team on his back. He wants the ball, and he's not selfish. Like, a lot of the plays that he's making this is the best basketball play. He's throwing alley-oops from his knees. Like, the guy is insane. I don't know what he can't do on a basketball court.
Yeah, and that Duke team is outstanding as well. Malawach had like a beautiful offhand lefty hook in that game. Malawach, in my draft guide, I compare him to Rudy Gobert, and I think Mitchell Robinson is the other one. I need a better one for Malawach because he has more skill as a scorer than some of those guys. He's flashed. He's a 75% guy from the free throw line. You got Gavoni. He posted a video of him before the game taking step back threes. He's got smooth form. He's shown touch since high school. There's more there than just lob dunk guy. Knipple, the playmaking as a 6'7" guard. Tyrese Proctor Jr., knockdown shooter. James, their fifth starter, is just like a rock solid role player. I got him in my second round. Duke's loaded, man. Best team in college basketball. I think they're going to win it all as well. My bracket is also busted, but I do have Duke winning it, as do a lot of people. The other best game of that night was a game that went to overtime between Texas Tech and Arkansas. Coach Cal at Arkansas, they're up big at one point in that game, and Texas Tech just slowly just starts chipping away. And then Darion Williams, who really had a poor game scoring, just starts catching fire at the end, post-ups. He hits a huge three, ties the game at the end of regulation. Overtime, he hits the go-ahead shot as well. Darion Williams, JT Toppin, they're two guys that I think are borderline first round picks. Williams had 20 points in the game, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. If you didn't watch the game, he's got a body like Grant Williams. He's a little shorter, but he does a little bit of everything for Texas Tech. Sometimes he runs points, sometimes he's screening. He does a lot of everything else. And then JT Toppin, who I love, like he's their big man, 20 points in the game, 9 boards, 5 blocks. He had a righty hook. He had a lefty hook. He's got a ton of skill near the rim. Both of those guys, I think, are guaranteed top 40, 45 picks. Easily could see them, especially Toppin, moving into the top 20, 25. What were your impressions of Texas Tech in that game coming back against Arkansas?
Really impressive, especially the way that Darian Williams got the ball down the stretch on that last possession and knew exactly where he wanted to go. And he got there and finished over 2 dudes with a great post-up move, confidence, strength, skill, all being shown in that moment. And, I know people are saying that this is, 1.9% odds. Look, 1.9% means that, 1 out of 50 times you're going to win that game. And they did. And so that's an incredible achievement for that Texas Tech team. Well coached. I love what he did at his previous stop, where this guy is. When you talk about elite head coaches, I hope that these guys end up at these places and can stay for 10, 15 years rather than hopping from team to team. Because I feel like Texas Tech, the way that they played down the stretch, this is a team that can win it all. And if they don't face Duke and they're able to do this consistently, Darian Williams and JT Toppin just took over there down the stretch. And you said Grant Williams. Some people might be like, dude, that's selling him short. Grant Williams, I think people need to understand when you do comps, guys, not everybody can be LeBron or comp Tracy McGrady or comp Luka Doncic. Like having a Grant Williams career is amazing. That's a great career. And so if Darian Williams, if you're a Texas Tech fan or you're a fan of him, you'd be like, oh, he can be better than Grant Williams. That's selling Grant Williams short. Or Joe Ingles, like you have Joe Ingles as a comp for him. Like that'd be a great career. And so if he can be a early second round pick, I think you had him at 43 in your latest big board. I think if he has a couple more games like this, he could break himself into a late first round pick, and I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, for sure. I think both him and Toppin have a chance there. And with Arkansas, I'm not a big fan of any of the Arkansas prospects. DJ Wagner got the ball at the end of regulation and at the end of overtime. And I know he hit a big layup, but Coach Cal's got to call a timeout there, man. But that's typical of Cal. He does not like to call timeouts. He puts players in a poor positions. I thought it was typical poor coaching by Cal at the end of that game. Really, the whole second half of that game, blowing the lead to Texas Tech. That's not to take anything away from Texas Tech, but Cal got completely outcoached. Texas Tech got whatever they wanted on the floor. And I felt like Arkansas made 0 adjustments in that second half of their lead, just got blown. And again, that's typical. And by the way, Boogie Fland, Verno mentioned him to me earlier in the week on the pod, plays only 9 minutes in the game. And I know like he's just coming back from injury. So there might be reason there, but 2 of your best prospects, Thero playing only 5, Fland playing only 9. I like he's sometimes
Dude.
last year he's playing DJ Wagner ahead of Reed Shepherd and ahead of Rob Dillingham, and he's doing it again.
My wife is part of Big Blue Nation. She's from Kentucky. Her dad went to Kentucky. I have a lot of friends who are big Kentucky fans, and they are looking at this Arkansas collapse and saying, yep, that's Coach Cal. That's the Calipari we know and love for the last 5 years is the lack of adjustments, the weird substitution patterns, and you get a lot of talent and you're not able to translate that talent in big moments. And so I know a lot of people, my phone was blowing up last night of my friends. My wife this morning, when I saw her this morning after work, I was like, oh, did you see that Arkansas game? And she's like, yep. As long as Coach Cal doesn't go as far as Kentucky, I'm happy. And that's the story for a lot of Kentucky fans this morning.
Yeah, and I should be clear, I know Ado's coming back from an injury, and that's why he played only 5 minutes, but still, it's just disappointing to see. The earlier games were a lot less exciting. Florida beat Maryland 87-71. Derek Queen, the top draft prospect in that game, had 27 points, was really poor defensively. Not a great showing from him on that end of the floor, but he did show out offensively. And then Alabama, Mark Sears, I mean, oh my God. a 113-88 victory for Bama in that game over BYU. And Mark Sears has 34 points behind 10 3-pointers, Tom. He
Amazing.
was not missing. It was incredible seeing that little guy take all those threes and make them all.
Yo, shout out to Kendall Baker, who does the Yahoo Sports newsletter. You got to subscribe to it, Yahoo Sports AM. The stat that he dropped in this newsletter, I was reading it this morning. Crazy but true. If Alabama hadn't made a single 2-point field goal the entire game, they still would have won because they had 25 3-pointers and 18 free throws. That's nuts. That's an incredible stat. I can't remember anything like that happening where you're so hot from three and you get those free throws. You didn't even need to make a basket inside the arc for you to win the game. So shout out to Kendall, an amazing stat.
And with BYU, I hope a lot of those guys go back. I mean, I love Richie Saunders. He's their two guard. I think he's a late first round pick, early second round guy. But I hope they go back because Yegor Demon needs more time. He needs more time. He needs to learn how to shoot. He needs to improve his creation. And the way to do that is to play with an elite player. They have A.J. DiBonsa going to BYU next year, going to play his freshman year there. If you bring A.J. DiBonsa, a great shot creator, a guy who can get anywhere on the court, and you fix a lot of BYU's issues. Demon is not there yet. I can't see him as a top 10 guy in this year's draft class. Late teens, sure. 20s, yes. But top 10, I can't get there with Demon. I know he's 6'9". I know he can pass. There's shades of Josh Giddey with him. But like Giddey, he needs to improve a lot as a shooter. And in this year's class, which is pretty deep in the lottery, I hope Demon goes back to school. I hope Saunders goes back. And I hope they team up with A.J. DiBonsa and, come back a lot better next year, Tom, because those guys aren't ready. Well, Saunders could be, but I think he'll play his fourth year there.
Yeah, I remember talking to Jeff Teague one time, and he's just like, man, it's so crazy how much of your decision, his brother Marquise Teague at Kentucky, how much of your decision is about the next class coming in, and how maybe guys like him are like looking at all the talent coming through and wondering, am I going to be able to boost my draft stock in the same way that like Marquise Teague is looking through an incredible class coming at Kentucky, and it's just like, I got to go. I got to go to the league. Like, what if I just don't get the ball and I'm not getting the touches that I need to improve my draft stock? And on the other side, I'd imagine you'd be like, hey, man, you're going to look a lot better next to a guy like AJ DiBonsa, and all the attention that he's going to get, it's going to free up your game to do a lot more.
100%, Tom. Tom, hope you have a great rest of your day, man. Got anything going on for the weekend?
Nothing too crazy, got a couple of Blazers games here on tap, but hey, you enjoy the rest of the March Madness here this weekend. We got a lot of great hoops and we had an amazing Thursday night. So I'm still riding that high, baby.
Thanks, Tom.